Sounds of anger as thousands of gays pour into downtown Sacramento and the state capitol.
And the sounds of sorrow as Northern California says goodbye to a religious leader and friend. Hello, I'm Alan Frio.
I'm Dick Cable. Those stories straight ahead, and a new law will test our children for lead poisoning. This is News 10 at 5.
Dick Cable, Jennifer Smith, Harry Stockman with the weather, and Healthcast with Cale Westwood. This is News 10 at 5.
A final goodbye to a man, a friend, a religious leader. Today, hundreds attend the funeral for the late Bishop Alphonse Gallegos.
And just blocks away from the funeral, thousands of angry gays swamping the state capitol, blocking traffic, engaging in some acts of civil disobedience. Thank you for joining us. Two big stories dominating the news at this hour, and a reminder that Jennifer Smith is off today.
Lots going on, Dick. In fact, thousands of gay and lesbian activists are in the capital city tonight at this hour. Their annual Coming Out event has focused on Governor Wilson's recent veto of the gay rights bill. Now, Tom Marshall joins us now from the Capitol, where the activists rallied this afternoon. There were some points of problem as the afternoon wore on, Tom.
Well, it's been a long, hot day here. It has not been a violent day for the most part. We like to underscore that. It has been a day that's been quite boisterous at times, and one that has often been filled with moments of tension. The rally was supposed to get people's attention. Minor acts of peaceful civil disobedience were planned and encouraged in what organizers term a wake-up call for America.
The gay 90s will see the second wave of queer revolution!
One speaker after another called on the 5,000 or so protesters to be both angry and calm at the same time.
You are beautiful when you're angry!
Non-violent but militant civil disobedience is part of civil rights struggle tradition in this country, and the gay and lesbian community and AIDS activists will continue to use it.
Only one counter-demonstration disrupted the rally. Police quickly took a knife from that man and removed him. The crowd was told to direct its anger toward Governor Pete Wilson, not average citizens.
We struggle today not against the vast people of California, but against the ignorant and the stupid.
The activists are urged to defeat Wilson at the polls and renew efforts toward more gay rights legislation. That may prove harder to do than just spouting of rhetoric at rallies.
Sometimes you have to get people's attention, but I hope we can get beyond doing things like that and getting actual political reform.
Many gays and lesbians worry that the sporadic violence, which captures the media spotlight, might cause irreparable damage to their cause.
Those people who are doing violent acts does not represent the group as a whole. They're individuals acting on their own anger, and that should not be generalized as a gay population of violent people, because most gay people are very passive.
Now, the Capitol building was closed periodically throughout the day today. Most of the staffers were sent home around noon. Governor Wilson, we're told, remained at his desk. He came in early this morning, has not been paying attention to what's been going on outside, and he will be working into the night tonight. Now, rally organizers out here have said they will continue to bug Wilson at his public events in the near future. And they mentioned several upcoming dates that Wilson will be appearing in public, and they will be there with him. In fact, today they made him an honorary homosexual. Alan?
Okay, Tom, thanks. Things seem to be quiet right now behind you. Things have broken up.
This is kind of nap time, I think. It's been a long, very hot day. The weather hasn't exactly cooperated. There's been a lot of tension. There will be another rally out here tonight. There will be a march from a couple of parks on the east side into the Capitol grounds starting about 6 o'clock.
All right. Heard Tom say there will be another rally starting at about 6 o'clock. We'll have more coverage on the gay protest a little later. Accused mass murderer Charles Ng back in a Calaveras
on TV. And legal scholars
of your views.
Here in Northern California at the state capitol, thousands of angry gay rights activists from all over the state have gathered for a massive demonstration. The activists are protesting Governor Wilson's veto of gay rights bill AB 101. Let's go to Channel 3's Gary Gabriel now for the very latest. Gary?
Carol, things have calmed down here a great deal over the last couple of hours. There are still some protesters on the west steps.
The gay liberation flag remains draped out front, and we're told at this hour that most of the Capitol's entrances remain closed and the building itself is surrounded by police barricades. As you're about to see, authorities here had good reason to take precautions today and be concerned about the possibility of violence. A man attacking gay activists and then being beaten up himself outside the state capitol. One of several incidents of violence that marred an otherwise peaceful protest and march through downtown Sacramento.
Swear right now!
The crowd of at least 3,000 directed most of their anger toward Governor Wilson, who a week and a half ago vetoed Assembly Bill 101, the gay rights bill.
Fairness in employment is the right thing. Equal rights for all people is the right thing. Freedom from discrimination is the right thing.
Flags were burned and acts of civil disobedience were carried out. Protesters shut down traffic at 10th and L Streets for at least half an hour. A security guard caught in the traffic jam tried to force his way out by macing protesters standing in front of his car. Later on the east steps of the Capitol, the crowd confronted police in riot gear. Some threw bottles and were arrested for assaulting police officers.
Our plan right now is to let them do what they're doing so long as nobody gets hurt and there's no major damage to the building.
Now, there were actually only 2 or 3 arrests today, and police say on the whole, protesters did behave themselves despite a few isolated incidents. Now, most of the protesters have moved from the state capitol to Wynn Park in Sacramento, where a candlelight vigil will be getting underway in just about an hour from now. Carol.
What's the traffic situation, Gary? Are the streets open around the Capitol?
The streets are open, and as you can see, there are very few protesters here at the Capitol, and in fact, throughout the downtown area, most of the activities are gearing now to Wynn Park in Sacramento.
All right, so the barricades are down. Thank you for your report. Kelly?
Well, inside the Capitol, Governor Wilson tried to conduct business as usual.
Yeah, this door over here, ma'am. This is the only door right here.
Capitol employees arriving for work had to offer proper identification to get in the door. Some lawmakers decided to close down their offices for the entire day. During the day, an aide to Assemblyman David Knowles worked behind a locked door. The governor's office remained open but protected more heavily. Governor Wilson worked inside his office, deciding the fate of more than 500 bills that still require action by Monday night's bill signing deadline. And an aide to the author of the gay rights bill said Wilson will get another chance next year.
We're going to keep coming back with this bill year in and year out until the governor either signs the bill or until we put a compassionate and courageous governor in the corner office.
As the rally intensified, so too did security. When a barrier went down on the west steps, officers locked all the doors at the Capitol for a time, letting no one enter or leave, including a number of Capitol staffers who abruptly closed their offices for the day.
Are you going to go out and tell her? No one can leave at this time.
After protesters pelted the east steps with eggs, and after one activist broke through the police lines, the governor's office was abruptly sealed off. A spokesman said the governor tended to business throughout it all, never missing a beat. At the state capitol, Steve Swat, Channel 3 reports.
Another major event taking place in downtown Sacramento today, memorial services for one of Northern California's most beloved religious leaders. When we come back, we'll remember auxiliaries
first today, saying not even a seat on the Supreme Court is worth the prying that he has had to face. He says anonymous state law barring discrimination. And some good news for a local charity hit by vandalism.
And riot cops go to work. They have their hands full at the barricade. We have Team 31 coverage as thousands descend on our city.
A mass killer here hasn't escaped the gas chamber. News Nightcast is next.
His first prime time news with Karen King, Tom Curran, weather with Pat Evans, and sports with Grant Napier. This is 31 News Nightcast.
America, our queer shoulders will be closeted and hunched in fear no more. No. We'll be squared.
These gays got mad and are staying mad. They say the governor gave them the shaft.
Good evening, everyone. One thing is for sure, you can't ignore them. They're noisy and mad, and they don't care who knows it. Tonight, a march through Midtown ended at the Capitol again, where their dwindling numbers couldn't put a ring around the dome. But it was a different story this afternoon. 31's Grace Provenzano reports that for a while, thousands of gays threatened to turn things ugly.
Their physical might almost exceeds the verbal attack.
We have a legal right to be here. We're just demonstrating. We're not hurting anyone or anything.
From Los Angeles, San Francisco, and around the state, they brought descriptive placards and called themselves Queer Nation. When push came to shove, the nearly 10,000 gay demonstrators left their mark on the state capitol. This rally, billed by the gay community as a non-violent grassroots effort, turned into a shouting match interrupted by blaring whistles. For hours today, the sea of gay rights activists kept ardent stamina with anti-Governor Wilson chants.
Wilson, the gay and lesbian community, by your own hand, are united greater than ever before in history.
They're angry at the governor for vetoing Assembly Bill 101, which would have barred job discrimination for homosexuals.
We hope to wake them up to the fact that thousands of people, even though they say that our rights are protected, really aren't. We are being discriminated daily.
We want to get our point across of our civil rights. All of us together, we can make a difference.
These protesters have come to Sacramento not only to express their opinion, but to initiate change in state legislation. They also want to change high-ranking personnel, namely Governor Wilson. Impeaching Wilson is the will of these people. They also sought to throw out any sign of a counter-protester. This man espoused the theory that gays should not have any special rights.
What about equal rights for him?
Yeah.
He's got laws that protect him. We have no laws, and obviously this was venting out some anger.
The spirit of the gay protest flowed out into the K Street Mall.
The wonderful Catholic Church. They help us day and night. Ask him how his mama feels about him.
Still denied entrance to the Capitol building after the rally, 3,500 gay rights supporters threw glass bottles and eggs filled with red dye. In all, state police arrested 2 men and 1 woman for interfering with an officer, a misdemeanor. This is the largest and one of the most vocal rallies at the state capitol in recent years, and it was an effort that took months in the making. Even the West Hollywood City Council gave its employees the day off so they could make this protest. Not only is security tight at this ground at the state capitol, airspace in the area is being patrolled as well. The California Highway Patrol has imposed restricted airspace around the Capitol Dome. No aircraft is allowed within a radius of 3 miles and lower than 2,000 feet in the area. The restrictions began at 7 o'clock this morning and will remain in effect until 7 o'clock Sunday night. Several streets in downtown Sacramento were cordoned off until late this afternoon. All around the Capitol building, the police department, with the help of 11 reserve officers, blocked off streets and rerouted traffic. No problems or accidents were reported during or after the rally. As the gay rally did get underway, dozens of camera crews, radio and newspaper reporters were there to capture the event. On the ground, in the air, and just roving the Capitol lawn to get just the right interview, media crews could be found. We were also on hand to experience firsthand some of the action, like bottle throwing at the Capitol steps and fights between gay demonstrators, as well as their opponents. Karen?
Grace, were any state police or reserves injured during the rally?
Well, Commander Dennis Williams of the state police says 2 of his officers were injured during the rioting, but no serious injuries at all.
Okay, Grace, thank you very much. Tom?
Well, today's demonstrations kept cops busy in and around the Capitol. One cop called it the largest force of law enforcement at the Capitol in recent memory. The protests at the state capitol today displayed plenty of emotion and aggression, but a team of cops supplied by the state, city, and CHP were mostly successful in maintaining order. They were ready for the worst, dressed to the hilt in riot gear.
We were prepared. We were hoping it wouldn't be necessary, but we're prepared for it.
Oh, let's go. Dress it up. Look sharp here. Look like Nazis here. Let's go.
On the Capitol grounds alone, there was a combined force of over 200 officers, comprised of state police and the California Highway Patrol. It was that show of force that may have kept serious riots from breaking out.
We have found over the years that they put a strong showing up, and that takes care of a lot of problems in the beginning.
Perhaps the biggest challenges for cops was keeping peace between the protesters and counter-demonstrators. One man demonstrating against the gays was mobbed, and after he pulled a knife, was let off by police. Roughly a half dozen arrests were made during today's demonstration.
Today's gay rights protest at the state capitol was planned to coincide with National Coming Out Day. It's a nationwide celebration for homosexuals every October 11th to be recognized for their alternative lifestyles.
Well, National Coming Out Day, which was started in D.C., is a day when lesbians and gays can come out and be proud and let the nation and the world know that we're here and we're not going anywhere.
But they are going to continue to celebrate their freedom and push for more gays' rights.
The populists, they're mad at the governor for not granting them equal job protection under the law, and today it got ugly. Here's your chance to see and listen to what it was really like as gays mobbed the Capitol.
What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want? What do we want?
You look good, you feel good.
What brings us to Pete Wilson, and I'll close with Pete Wilson. But Pete Wilson, the gay and lesbian community, by your own hand, are united greater than ever before in history.
Over there and go right in.
We have a legal right to be here. We have a legal right to be here.
Sick and die from neglect. Now they dare deny us the right to work free from discrimination, and we're not going to walk quietly into the night. Keep on marching. Keep on marching.
Relax, let them make their statement, okay? We don't need a riot out here.
He told us one thing, but coming here and cussing out the church and disrespecting everybody else is another. But they say, hey, that's okay. Don't get mad. Don't get upset. Don't say anything back to them. We don't want to riot. Well, what do you want, you know?
The wonderful Catholic Church. They help us day and night. They're so wonderful, aren't they? Let's have a round of applause for the good Catholics.
We have new and tragic information on the condition of red fox. Let's go to Grace Provenzano live.
Meteorologist Dave Brown with the weather. And all the sports with Rich Miller. The 10 o'clock news.
The American flag went up in flames tonight, and thousands of gay rights activists from all over the state protested a veto of the so-called gay rights bill. Good evening, everyone. I'm Jim Crandell.
I'm Lorraine. Woodward. Demonstrators carried placards and shouted, "Gay rights now or civil war." They were loud and not always peaceful as they marched on the Capitol. Once again, the issue is a gay rights bill vetoed by the governor. It would have protected homosexuals against job discrimination. Zenobia Gerald begins our coverage.
Some of the demonstrators set fire to the flag. Thousands of others marched through the streets, declaring their anger over the governor's veto of a gay rights bill.
We don't want to sit on the back of the bus anymore.
Tonight's march capped a day of protest on Sacramento streets and at the Capitol.
We're not a violent people, but we can't get angry. It's about our children and our students. That's what it's about. I grew up living in the closet in the 50s, and I'll be goddamn if I'm going to live in the closet again.
If you don't march, you're not seen. If you're not seen, nobody knows what you want.
Not only were there angry words directed at the governor, but gay rights activists also criticized some of their own.
I hate it when these pacifists sit at home and do nothing.
A few even fought among themselves.
that just highlights the diversity in the crowd. I mean, there are people that think that that's the way to it. There are, I think, the majority of people here that believe that that's not the way to create change here.
Protesters say they'll be back.
In the words of the queer poet Allen Ginsberg, we're saying to America, America, I'm putting my queer shoulder to the wheel.
Zenobia Gerald for the 10 o'clock news.
I'm Terry Cox. Today's event brought out the largest assembly of peace officers in the history of Sacramento. Nearly 500 officers from 4 different agencies. They were put to use at the first signs of violence, which occurred at 10:25 this morning. 300 demonstrators took to the intersection of 10th and L Street and began pounding on cars, inching through the crowd.
That didn't give you the right to do what you're doing. Self-defense. From back here.
It took city and state police nearly 20 minutes to escort the first vehicles through.
I want them to block those streets. Excuse us for a second, would you please? Thank you. Watch me.
The tension was high, but officers have been trained to keep their cool. The teasing continued as the crowd grew to 3,000 and transcended to the west steps of the Capitol. Officers were rotated from the front line frequently, exhausted from the energy exerted and overheated from bulletproof vests and riot gear. Only once were officers seen striking out at protesters.
You can't say you're ever used to it, but you know it's going to happen. And part of our job, the staff job, is to go through and talk to people, make sure they're okay, it's not getting to them. But yeah, you kind of expect it.
The job became even more intense when the demonstrators crowded on the east side of the Capitol and began vandalizing the building with markers, stickers, eggs, and paint. The arrests were few.
3 people have been arrested, 2 males, 1 female. They've all been charged with interfering with an officer, which normally is a misdemeanor, and depending on how cooperative they are at the booking station, they'll probably be cited and released later.
Officers were telling me they heard people yell things like, they're getting one of ours, let's get one of theirs. And it was threatening the officers that they're going to try and pull an officer into the crowd and beat him up, basically, is the concern of the officers at that point. And it really heightens the fear at that point.
They're starting to throw stuff at us while we're out there. You know, there's bottles been thrown. There's unknown substance. We don't know whether it's blood on our shirts, AIDS infected, or just cranberry juice.
And now the night demonstration, and with it a whole new set of concerns for peace officers here. You see, demonstrators are now under the cover of darkness, which means if they choose to, they can be more aggressive and have a better chance of getting away with it. In addition to that, most of the peace officers here have already put in an 8 or 9 hour day. But the number of demonstrators here tonight is about half that of this afternoon, and most crowded down Capitol Mall and shut down the Tower Bridge and obstructed traffic throughout the downtown area. Only a small group stayed at the Capitol and rattled gates that stood between them and the officers who stood 2 and 3 deep. By 9 o'clock, most of the activity here at the Capitol was over, and the cost to the State Police Department alone for just a day is expected to total into the tens of thousands of dollars. For the 10 o'clock news, I'm Terry Cox.
For the second time in a week, a black resident of Sacramento has had their house set on fire. This time, Sharon Woods Taylor's home was the target in South Sacramento. The blaze destroyed a gate and part of the garage. This comes after someone painted "No Blacks" on the porch.
There was somebody pounding on my door. I just could hear it, and I got up, I ran to the door. There's this lady out standing out going nuts, going, "Get out of your house was on fire." I thought she was lying. I thought, who is this trying to get me out of my house in the middle of the morning? What's happening?
Woods Taylor, as well as neighbors, are shocked by that fire. Investigators say it was deliberately set. Now, damage is estimated at $3,000. Woods Taylor was renting the home.
There was word today from the district attorney's office that there will be a second trial to determine the punishment for convicted killer Morris Solomon. One trial has already convicted Solomon of killing 6 people here in Sacramento back in 1986 and 87. But the same jurors who found him guilty could not decide whether to send him to the gas chamber or to prison for life. The jury was deadlocked, and the judge declared a mistrial. Today, Sacramento District Attorney Stephen White announced he has requested another jury be impaneled to decide Solomon's fate. It could be a lengthy trial, with the attorneys going over all of the
Across the state marched to the Capitol, blowing whistles, blocking traffic, burning flags to protest the veto of what they see as a gay rights bill. A handful of shoving and shouting matches marred what was otherwise a nonviolent protest. Police did arrest 3 demonstrators who threw dye-filled eggs at the Capitol. The demonstrators are angry because Governor Wilson vetoed Assembly Bill 101, which would have outlawed job discrimination based on sexual preference. Their protest today is on Coming Out Day, aimed at raising gay awareness and increasing gay political power in California. Our Paul Johnson has been watching the demonstrators at a Sacramento rally this evening. He joins us from 20th and Capitol in the gay community. Paul, a bit quieter, I guess, now, huh?
Much quieter tonight, Patrick. As you can see, some of the hundreds of police working overtime tonight have blocked off 20th Street, and there's a gay block party going on inside. Part of a celebration, if you will, to wind this whole eventful day down. Now, a number of events were scheduled tonight, but about 6:30 this evening, before we knew it, we had another march on our hands. What began as a coming-out party quickly turned into a loud, rowdy march through Midtown Sacramento. 3,000 to 4,000 gays and lesbians parading their way through one of the most densely populated areas of the city. Most were conservative in appearance, others quite the opposite. But the bottom line, they were impossible to ignore. We noticed this husband and father cheering them on from his front porch.
The gay and lesbian community have just as much right to equal rights as anyone else in the state of California or the world. We applaud their efforts.
A lot of people are saying the whistles, the hassle, they're blocking traffic. Stop it.
No problem.
And at one point, the group made its way past the Hyatt Hotel, where at least one guest was happy to see them. But more than 100 officers dressed in riot gear were waiting for them at the state capitol. Unlike the raucous demonstration in San Francisco 2 weeks ago, there was no violence tonight. Police held their ground despite what seemed like incessant taunting by a few agitated demonstrators. Then, having made their point, most retreated to the Lavender Heights section of town, where a block party was in full swing. What is this going to mean come Election Day?
Come Election Day, what it means now is we are going to have a mobilization and vote. That we are going to show we not only have a power economically, but we also have the power to overturn an election.
So the gay community figures to play a very interesting role in the next big election. One quick note, although it was a loud rally tonight, once again, no major problems, although there was one arrest when demonstrators tried to go onto a freeway on-ramp about 9:30, 10 o'clock tonight. Reporting live from Sacramento, I'm Paul Johnson. Back to you in the studio.
Paul Johnson, thank you for the report.
Well, the gay group Queer Nation says it will release a list of influential closet gays tomorrow at noon in San Francisco. That's a practice called outing, designed to pressure unannounced gays into openly supporting gay rights. A scuffle at today's rally in Sacramento also highlights concerns about tactics and manipulating the media. When one man tried to prevent others from destroying an American flag, several men jumped him, and others tried to keep television and other news cameras from recording the scene. Now, before they even got to the Capitol this morning, a small group of gay protesters attacked the Sacramento office of the Reverend Lou Sheldon. They marched to the door of the Traditional Rights Coalition, the conservative group which actively opposed the gay rights bill. Coalition member Lance Fortin says the gay protesters didn't do much damage today, but they yelled and kicked and intimidated the staff inside.
Still ahead, new sex charges surface against TV evangelist Jimmy Swaggart, this time in California.
An accused mass murderer faces yet another